Yeah, let's get this started, guys. So yeah, if you're new to the streams here on uh, the weekly Sunday streams, I'm just gonna go over the markets really quickly, look at the sectors that are setting up the best, and then I'll show you the setups that I like the most going into next week, so we kind of get prepared for the markets together. There's a ton of setups out there, as I just mentioned, with the consolidation that we saw over the last like 2 to 3 weeks on the markets. Now it's just up to see if we get some follow through on some stuff. Um, I mean, we already had some pretty decent follow through on like ARC, for example, on Friday. We just have to see, obviously, if this continues to move higher. Like something like this is already reclaiming the moving averages here. So that's a really, really good look for the markets. I'll show you guys a few weekly charts as well, because we do have a bunch of like weekly stuff setting up super nicely. But yeah, that is the initial look. So let's start off with SPY as always, just so I can give you guys kind of an idea on what I'm looking at here. So we had this big level here at 584 that the markets continue to hold over the last few weeks. We kind of swept into that spot on Thursday, and then the next day kind of held and pushed back up. So what we could be potentially setting up, and we talked about this on the last stream, so last Sunday, is this failed head and shoulders breakdown. So obviously everybody knows a head and shoulders is a very bearish pattern because it usually signals a lower high and then you have a move to the downside, right? So kind of like a trend change to the downside. However, if you do not break down and sellers fail to push us lower, then obviously that is just a bear trap, because what that does is it traps all these shorts here that think the markets are going to go higher, especially the ones that came in late. And then as price reverses, all these shorts are underwater. So what happens is they'll have to cover their position and then price will squeeze the other way. So is that potentially setting up? Yes. Is it 100% sure that we're going to be seeing something like this? Not 100% sure just yet, because we haven't had it follow through, right? So we have to see if we can get over this high here at 602. This would confirm that we are squeezing the other way. So over 602 confirms we are still about 10 points away from that on the S&P. However, the price action that we did see over the last 2 days was very bullish in terms of how I'm looking at it into the downside here. So that is a good look, but we're still not fully out of the clear yet, which is why, again, I'm not fully sizing up until I see signs that the markets are going to be following through. However, we did have very good action in specific sectors and in specific themes, which is super, super important to look at, because some of these themes carried us in 2024. So if you look at like semiconductors, right? Why did we really rally in 2024? What was the theme behind that? Obviously, everybody knows it was artificial intelligence, AI stuff, things that was making obviously like computer parts, anything for data centers, anything for collecting data, anything for making chips, anything for, you guys know, anything that had to do with artificial intelligence, computer stuff, was going pretty crazy. And that's why the original move happened in the beginning of 2024 with like Nvidia, SMCI. Those stocks were leading us higher. So now there's a continued theme for what I'm seeing, which is why it's making me a little bit bullish in terms of like the first quarter of 2025, because we do have an actual theme that the markets are trying to kind of establish with this robotics, quantum, and then data center kind of coming back here into the mix as well. So you guys have seen some of those stocks have been running like crazy, like quantum stocks, QBT, IONQ, QBTS, RGTI. Some of you are definitely familiar with those type of names. Some crazy moves. So I'll show you guys an example. RGTI. This stock is up literally like over like 2,000% probably. Yeah, like 1,000% in the last like 20 days, right? There's a bunch of stocks that have done the same thing, and these themes continue to emerge and emerge and emerge. And they are creating a healthier market environment. So as long as we continue to see themes like this, and especially something like semiconductors resurfacing their strength, I don't think there's any way the markets won't go higher, at least in this first quarter. And the reason why I'm saying this is because look at SMH, right? We still have not broken out. We still have not confirmed this move. However, this is a base that's been building for 6 months, right? A 6-month base. If this breaks out, you are going to get one of the most explosive moves you guys have seen in the markets since we've had this move here that I mentioned with like Nvidia, SMCI, all that good stuff, right? So like look at SMH here in 2024 and 2023. Look at this huge move that it made, right? So what did this come off of? A base, right? You can see we had a base here, boom, big move up. Base here, boom, big move up. Now, after a stock like makes a huge move like this, it takes more time to create a base. So sometimes it'll take like a few years and it'll set up something like this and then boom, next leg up. Sometimes it might take a few months. And for me, what I'm seeing here on SMH is we have that few month base that's setting up now. So now we just have to see if there's going to be follow through. Is this going to push out? Are we going to get a nice move on this? If yes, stuff like Nvidia, stuff like ARM, stuff like AVGO, that's all going to rip really, really hard. And then that theme with semiconductors is going to resurface. So this is really what I'm watching to confirm market strength, right? And the price action that we had over the last 2 days has confirmed that, especially in semiconductors. So I want to show you guys something. If you look at like SMH, right, here on Tuesday the 31st, right, we made actually a higher low right here, right? So look at QQQ, for example. Right here, you could see QQQ actually made a lower low right here, right? So that shows you relative strength in semiconductors. And if you saw something like Nvidia, look at this one as well, right? It wasn't even close to the lows that we made here on December 17th in middle December, while the market actually did make a new low, right? So tech did make a new low. That shows you a change of character in semiconductors. And what that means is institutions are probably starting to load these up. Because they're anticipating a run, they're anticipating huge demand for data centers. I don't know if you guys saw that that news that dropped from Microsoft, but they're anticipating like insane demand for data centers in 2025. That dropped over the weekend. So if we see like that demand actually materialize, I'm expecting semis to move higher. Anything that has to do with collecting data for artificial intelligence, robotics, quantum, all that good stuff is going to be very, very nice in the next few months, in my opinion. So yeah, that's a quick little recap on stuff. The S&P looks like it wants to move higher. Obviously, the S&P wasn't the strongest compared to like tech and ARC. And another thing to look at is growth stocks as well. I'll get to that in a second. But that's the look there on the S&P. Now, Qs actually have a little bit better of a look on like the daily in terms of the setup. It just looks like a tight wedge to me, right? So if you look at like the weekly time frame, you do have some sort of like wedge setting up here. We had a hammer on the weekly. Overall, the weekly doesn't look like the best in terms of the candles that were forming here, but this weekly hammer does look very nice. Some decent volume there as well on that weekly hammer. And we did reclaim this high right here, which was pretty important. So you can see we were trying to hold here. We kind of undercut it, rallied back through. Then we came back, undercut, and then came back through. So undercutting and then reclaiming is exactly what you want to see in a weaker market, in a market that's weak, that's trying to kind of turn a little bit, right? The reason why is because if you're not able to hold a structure like this, then you don't really have a trend, right? Because the market wants to like continue to reclaim prior lows, then get back above and squeeze the other way. That usually sets up for more of a trend change than it does continuation, right? So again, I'm not saying it's 100% sure that we're going to move higher, all that good stuff, but I'm just giving you guys an idea on kind of an outlook on what potentially could happen. Now, the most important thing we want to see is we want to see the markets get back through the 8 and 21 EMA. So you can see Qs are still below the 821. We tested it right into the close on Friday, and that actually lines up right at this kind of gap spot from Monday of this week. So that is at 519.3. Let's say 520. So if we can get over 520 on tech, expect this to fill out something like this probably, and then the big move to the upside. What I'm potentially looking for is some sort of digestion day to digest these lows and kind of set up something like this where we had a nice pattern here to move up. And then that would set up for a very nice continuation move, I would say, in the next few weeks. So that's what I'm looking at. Needs to reclaim the EMAs though. So 520 is going to be our big level for the week. If we can hold 520, that would be really, really nice to set up in the markets. All right, so here's where my main focus is going to be still in the beginning of the year here. Obviously, I'm going to look at semiconductors, as I was just mentioning, robotics, all that good stuff, all those themes that do look like they're materializing. But ARC did prove itself on Friday. So ARC stocks, growth stocks proved themselves on Friday. Why? Because they were able to reclaim the 821. So look at Qs, for example, still under the 821. Look at ARC, right? It was up 5% on Friday and straight through the 821 EMAs. That's exactly what you want to see. And if you look at the weekly, it looks like it's just retesting the big weekly breakout, right? So you can see we had rejection, rejection, and then the breakout here. This just looks like a retest of the breakout. And if you look at the stages of the market analysis, this is how a bottom looks, right? So you'll have the big base, you'll have the breakout, retest, boom, big move higher. And this is exactly what is setting up on ARK. So I was saying this in the last live as well. This is what I want to see set up on ARK, and that's exactly what is setting up. So again, now we'll have to see if the follow through is there, but for me, this looks really good. So I have a lot of confidence here in ARK. The setup looks really fantastic. On the weekly, looks like really good as well. You have that weekly hammer that closed all the way at the highs. That's exactly what you want to see. So nice look there on ARK. We'll see if there's follow through. There's so many ARK names that look good. Obviously, Tesla, if that one can continue to run higher, that would be good as well for ARK stocks. But yeah, super nice setup there. The Dow still looks like it's struggling a little bit, but it is retesting a pretty big demand spot here at the lows at 421. Maybe we start seeing the Dow get some flows. Obviously, if the market moves higher, it would probably have to, but I'm not too confident yet in like healthcare stocks, stuff like that. I don't think they're really going to benefit much like in the next few years, just because again, the new administration that's coming in, there's like new themes that are coming in with that as well, right? Like obviously we had Tesla moving higher, crypto stocks moving higher, things like that, Bitcoin itself moving higher. Those would be the things that I would see would benefit a little bit more than like obviously healthcare. We don't really have like a pro healthcare administration coming in. So I would try to focus on the stuff that kind of has a theme behind it going into like the inauguration on the 20th, which is in like the next 2 weeks. I think that would be the best like going into obviously the new administration coming in, right? That just makes the most sense to me. But I would keep an eye on the Dow, see what it does. Obviously, we want banks to move higher. As long as banks are healthy, that's good for the market. So we'll see if that ends up happening. IWM did hold up here at this very important spot at 217. You do have a weekly hammer here. And we also kind of swept a little bit at the lows here and then reclaimed. IWM small caps, even though they've been really weak off this high here, if you look at the monthly or even the weekly charts, I think it's still trying to set up this cup here to move up. And the reason why I'm saying this is because even though like the Russell has been weaker, a lot of small cap names have been running really nicely over the last week when the market was weaker, right? If you guys have noticed, like all these stocks that are moving off the lows and like doubling, tripling are all like small caps under like $1 or like under like $5. We had like crazy stuff like RR, for example. This one went crazy over the last week or so. Like these are all small cap names. So if small cap stocks like this are going to continue to move, I have some like conviction in IWM also moving higher. Bitcoin is always good to watch. If you guys noticed last week, when Bitcoin was moving higher, stocks were moving higher. So Bitcoin's a good look to see kind of like what the health of the market looks like. We'll see if we get continuation here, but if you look at the weekly chart on Bitcoin, it does look pretty decent. Like we do have some sort of setup setting up here. Again, we'll just have to see if there's follow through, right? As long as 92K holds though, I do think we'll probably reclaim 100 and then push out, make new highs. Obviously, it depends again if there's going to be follow through. So watch Bitcoin, see what it does. Always good to get an idea on this. And also stuff like MSTR coin was kind of bouncing on Friday. So maybe we get some follow through there. Obviously, pay attention to the VIX, see what the VIX does. We could be potentially putting a lower high here on the VIX. So that would obviously be good for the markets. If we continue to move lower, that will give the markets a little bit more breathing room to kind of bounce. So that's something to look at. Always pay attention to the VIX and then look at how it kind of correlates with SPY and stuff to kind of get an idea on how the premiums are looking as well. All right, that's pretty much going to be a really quick a recap on the markets in terms of the big major indexes. I'm going to go over a few sectors again that I like a lot that I think we should focus on going into the year. A few stuff that is looking good as well that I didn't mention. I think EV stocks look really, really good. So if you guys remember in like 2021, EV stocks were kind of the hype. I know it doesn't really make that much sense going into the Trump administration, but a lot of these off the lows do look pretty good. So like something like Lucid does look like it's bottoming with all this volume. I probably wouldn't trade Lucid, But Rivian, for example, is one that I would definitely look to trade. This is pretty interesting stuff on this. It looks really strong here off the lows. It got some pretty good delivery numbers. So that one could be nice. A lot of these Chinese EVs were pretty strong as well. Probably don't really trade the China stocks, but like Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, I would pay attention to those. They look pretty good. I definitely wanted to cover Tesla for you guys. So if you look here at Tesla, on the weekly time frame, we are setting up this hammer here on the weekly right off the 8 EMA. So obviously, ideally, we didn't really want to break below 400, but this snapback move here on Friday after being a little bit oversold looks very promising. It's obviously going to need to do a little bit more work to set something up because it doesn't really have like the cleanest wedge yet. But it could kind of set something up like that and then move higher. I'll be paying attention to Tesla, see if there's anything that's setting up on it for a move higher in the next few months, but that's a pretty good look. As I mentioned to you guys, blockchain stocks look like they might be bottoming as well a little bit. Coin had this pretty nice hammer. I'm probably not going to look at these too much, but MSTR looks pretty nice as well off the 21 day. I don't really personally like trading some of these because they obviously honestly move like pretty bad, but it's a good theme to pay attention to. As I mentioned, banks do look pretty good as well, which is always good for the market. I was scanning these, got some nice themes over there. Another theme, obviously, that I'm going to look at is chips. So as I mentioned to you guys, chip stocks look really, really good. Look at and notice how something like AMD, right? When we were making new lows on Qs, AMD did not make a new low. Now, why is this so crazy? Because look at AMD literally over the last like 6 months, right? This was the first stock to make new lows. Like every time the market would pull back just a little bit, this was moving lower. And now it's doing the complete opposite. So it's clearly something big that's kind of brewing here in semis. And I mean, it doesn't take a genius to kind of start to put these things together. So with AMD putting in a higher low, potentially, right? It didn't confirm yet, getting over these highs here. But a higher low regardless to the market, if you compare it to the Qs, right? And some stocks like AMAT, for example, putting in a higher low. That is telling me that semiconductors want to start bottoming, especially some of these names that are a little bit oversold. A lot of them are coming off of really big levels. So look at like AMAT, for example. It's coming off of this really important spot here on the weekly time frame. So if it can hold this spot, it looks really good, right? So I don't know if I would trade AMD. Honestly, personally, I would stick to the leaders, but I just wanted to show you guys kind of what it looks like when a stock might be bottoming. Something like ARM setting up a huge base. AVGO still looks very good here off the highs. Dell could be nice. Marvel is one that I definitely want to pay attention to off the highs. So anything that's at the highs, obviously better than stuff at the lows. But you could still watch things like AMAT, AMD to see if they reverse their trend. MU is not my favorite. Something like NVIDIA, we obviously want to pay attention to. So NVIDIA looks absolutely phenomenal. And I want you guys to look at the weekly on NVIDIA, right? So, I mean, look at this wedge that it's just breaking out of. I mean, the weekly is literally like almost textbook with this weekly hammer right here, super high volume. It was pulling in on low volume the whole time, and then here high volume again. So, I mean, NVIDIA just looks like it's going to run to the all-time high in the next like week or two, in my opinion. So definitely watch NVIDIA. That one's going to be a beast. You can see, I mean, it loves setting up in these weekly patterns, and it just doesn't look like a stock that's done yet. It looks like a stock that's still pretty strong. Again, something like QCOM would be a potential bottoming type of look. You could see how hard it was like trying to hold here off the lows. A lot of shorts may be trapped here, so that could be nice. I'm also looking at something like SMCI. Could be pretty interesting. It kind of moved off the lows and came back. Obviously, again, not the strongest names, but stuff to watch and pay attention to. And then obviously SMH setup just looks absolutely absurd, right? I mean, if you look at the weekly time frame, I mean, like this is probably one of the best weeklies I've seen in a while. So this one needs to get over 254 to really confirm, but a pre-breakout area would be like 252.5. So I would set alerts there. If that gets over, I would try to get myself into a semiconductor stock. Something like TSM also looks amazing. This one's setting up beautifully. Very, very nice look on it. These software stocks came off the lows a little bit, but I don't love them. They're not like the best looking ones just yet. Another theme that's very, very interesting. So energy stocks. I was kind of seeing this in the weekend scan that I did. So a lot of data centers, a lot of a lot of computing stocks, right, are going to need, or companies are going to need a lot of renewable energy and energy that's cheaper. So stuff like nuclear, renewable energy, even solar maybe could be pretty interesting. But you can see nuclear stocks just went off like on the last 2 days, just went like on a bender. Huge weekly charts on stuff like this. So like CEG, look at the volume that was pouring in here. So it's clearly a theme. Like when the market does this, you can't ignore this, right? There's clearly a theme here with data centers, AI, nuclear energy. Like everything revolving around this theme is doing good, and it's honestly pretty easy money if you're able to catch stuff like this. I mean, there isn't really that many times in history where we have these type of opportunities, right? Like the last time I remember something like this is obviously the dot-com bubble, where we had like um obviously tech stocks coming into the scene, but like an opportunity like that I really haven't seen. Maybe there's something that I'm not remembering, but in the last 6 years, at least since I've been trading, I haven't really seen opportunities that have been crazy like this. Like a really strong theme that the market just buys up and buys up and buys up. I haven't not seen, right? There's so many new leaders in the market. Like stuff like OKLO for years just did nothing. And then look at what it's doing now, right? Like there's so many new themes, so many new leaders, things like that. So you definitely want to take advantage of this stuff. Just make sure that you're keeping your money for when the market's actually moving and not when it's consolidating. Now is when you should be looking to get into names and stuff, not over the last 2 weeks. So you can see like when we were in consolidation here, nothing to do, right? Look at these stocks now. Everything's breaking out. Big move to the upside. Just make sure that you didn't lose your money trying to trade in this thing right here, right? And that's why we use the moving averages to confirm stuff. So yeah, there's so many setups here. Nuclear stocks. Another sector looks good, like space stocks look amazing because obviously Elon and Trump are coming in. Elon's really big on space exploration, things like that. So this could be a very nice theme as well. It's been running really nicely. I'm in ASTS. We're also in Jobby, but like Lunar, RKLB, these are all stocks that, again, did nothing for like years here. They were weak over the last 4 years. And then look at the new themes and new flows that are coming into some of these stocks. So those look really good. A few more stuff. Growth stocks look pretty nice. I like AI. This one looks really nice as well. Obviously, it has the AI theme behind it. The stock is literally called AI, so it's probably going to move pretty nicely. Growth stocks look pretty good as well. Hims, Lemonade, QS. These would be some like growth names. Reddit looks phenomenal as well. Roku's looking interesting. So there's a lot of growth stocks that do look really good as well. I still think quantum stocks look amazing. QUBT would be like one of my top setups. It's setting up beautifully in this flag here. I just don't think these are done, right? I really don't. So a lot of people thought IO and Q was going to top like around here. But I mean, this one's just continuing to chug along. I just think that this theme is going to last for a lot longer than people think. So I would definitely try to get into some QUBT shares. This one looks phenomenal. It's setting up basically the exact same thing that it set up here before it ran. So this one looks good. I still think stuff like QBTS looks good as well. I mean, this one's still setting up a big base. RGTI still looks pretty good. So there's some ideas there. But yeah, that's pretty much going to recap it for like the exact sectors. Maybe a few more like data center stocks look pretty good. So anything that collects data, that would be like COHR, right? This one's setting up really nicely on the weekly time frame, building a big base. BTDR. And again, it's important to have these themes and know which stocks you're going to be trading and the themes that you're trading, because as I mentioned, there's only going to be these type of opportunities like probably once every 5 years or something like that, maybe even more, right? So you want to take advantage of the themes that are forming in the market. And that's why I always focus on themes. I always focus on sectors specifically, because this is where the strength is. So like if you traded something random on Friday, yeah, you probably would have made money, but would you have made as much money if you would have traded like energy stocks or data center stocks or aero defense stocks? Probably not, right? Like there's specific themes that you need to pay attention to and look at, and they're all emerging in the markets right now. So keep your eyes open, keep your eyes peeled, look for those themes. As I mentioned, a bunch of them just now. I'll go over a few more that I like in like specific stocks and things like that. But yeah, that's pretty much going to recap it. In terms of the actual focus list that I like and names that look ready going into like tomorrow morning, I have a few that I like. So there is another theme that looks pretty interesting. Retail stocks like ANF, DKS look very, very good to me. This one is setting up in a huge weekly base. So other than SMH, I don't think there's another weekly base in the market that looks as good as this one right now. So this is probably like the best weekly setup I see in the market. Insane weekly base, right? So again, stocks are going to make huge runs. Look at the move that this made in like 2023, 2024. Then they're going to set up and then they're going to make huge runs again. That's really how the markets move, right? Until these winners become losers. But until they're winners, they're going to continue to go up. So what I'm looking for on this one is a break over 160. It's still really, really tight. Even though it did have a nice day on Friday, it's still really, really tight. And the break of 160, in my opinion, the moment it hits, gets over 160, I think it might honestly run to like 180 in one day. Like it could honestly explode with a lot of volume. So, super nice setup. Over 160 confirms it. I really like the look on this one. APP, this is another insane name. If you guys remember, this was a stock that ran all the way from like over under $100 to $400 in like 3 months. And this is the first time it's actually pulling back on the weekly chart. And if you look at the weekly, it's actually setting up beautifully, right? It's setting up a beautiful flag on the weekly into the 8 EMA weekly time frame. On the daily, it looks phenomenal as well because it's been setting up in this really tight base. So stocks that have been able to move like 400% in a few months are the ones you want to pay attention to, right? Because if this is not moved at all and it's just been compressing, imagine what happens once it expands out of range. It's going to absolutely explode. And this is the type of stock that can move like $50 in one day. So I'll be watching for this one to expand over 352. That's the high of day from Friday. I think it looks ready to move higher. Another one that looks really good to me, just in case we do get a nice move in FANG stocks, I do really like Amazon. So Amazon and Google would be the two that I really like. Google does have a better theme to it because it does have quantum. The quantum theme to it. You could also see it was getting some huge volume here as it was breaking out. So I definitely want to pay attention to Google. The only thing is Google looks ready to me like somewhere later in the week. Amazon looks ready right away. So that's why I'm looking at Amazon for like early week, but Google would probably be like later in the week. So Amazon's setting up for a huge move. On the hourly time frame, you could clearly see that this level here at 225.4 was very important. It was rejecting right here, rejecting right here, rejecting right here. So if we can get a break over that, not only would that confirm the breakout of the trend line, but that would obviously be a big breakout of that level that I mentioned. And that should set up to target some of these highs here. I honestly think Amazon should move into new highs, new all-time highs, again, as long as the market follows through. But this one does look really strong. And again, look at Qs below the 821. Look at Amazon above the 821, right? That's exactly what we want to see in the stocks that we're trading. Same thing with Google. It's above the moving averages. So that's exactly what we want to see. Another chart that looks really good, Fiverr. Only reason I don't really want to look at this one is just because the options are a little bit illiquid. But other than that, the setup is really nice. It has everything that like you would look for in terms of a breakout setup. The daily is super tight. Everything about it's like almost perfect to the T. So break over 32.7, I think it's worth a shot. Looks phenomenal and can move up to 33.6 and 36.22. So really, really nice setup on that. Reddit, another one that looks really, really good. So it's been building a nice base here at the highs. Now, again, these type of names that are breaking out of huge IPO bases, look at something like A-Lab, for example. It's been just on an absolute tear. I mean, these are the types of stocks that you want to pay attention to because they're the ones that are going to make the biggest moves to the upside. So I'm watching this one over 180. I think it probably hits like 200, honestly. It looks very, very good. So nice setup on that. A few more stocks that look really, really good to the upside and have a lot of potential. Obviously, as I mentioned, Google. I just don't have a clear trigger level for this one. But I would say if it breaks 193.4, I would probably take that one for a trade and take it up to 201. This has a really good theme behind it, quantum theme, right? So obviously Google announced they're coming into the quantum race. Huge volume was pouring in here, huge volume pouring in here off the lows. In my opinion, it looks like someone wants into this. Institutions are probably gonna have to buy some of this for 2025 just because it has that quantum theme behind it. So I would definitely pay attention to it. Roblox looks absolutely amazing. Look at the weekly on Roblox. It's breaking out of the big stage 1 base. It was like strong literally the whole time when the market was pulling back. So it's just super safe. I bought some Roblox on Friday. I think it moves higher. Over 61.8 looks like continuation. TSM looks absolutely phenomenal. Look at the weekly time frame on it. Look at the daily time frame on it. Huge inverse head and shoulders breakout. It is slightly extended here on the smaller time frames. But if it does something like this, retest, I definitely like it for an entry. Looks really good. So like this would be one of the semis that I would really, really want to get into. Same thing with Marvel. This looks really good as well. It's breaking out on the weekly time frame, breaking out on the daily time frame. Same thing with Nvidia, right? I would want an entry here. What I'm looking for on some of these that I've already moved is just a retest of the breakout. You don't want to be chasing this because there's no point, right? If it's going to keep going higher, I always tell you guys, if stocks are going to continue to go higher and we do have an active trend that is going to happen in the market, what you're going to see happen is something like this, right? So a lot of people would chase, let's say like after like the second day of the move up, like here, and then they would get stopped out at the low, right? The market's going to try to throw you off. But if the overall trend is going to be higher and we're going to get follow through, you're going to have at least like 2 to 3 weeks of a very strong move to the upside that you're going to be able to catch. So instead of trying to be a little bit early, be slightly patient, wait for good entries. And I guarantee you, especially with options, it is very important. You're going to get really, really good opportunities. So just keep that in mind. Do not chase Nvidia here if you missed it. Wait for the retest. You're going to get the opportunity. If not, something else is going to set up, but you're going to get an opportunity. So don't chase. That's the worst thing you could do because that sets you up for terrible entries. Hood looks very good as well. This one's setting up on the weekly time frame. This is like the first weekly consolidation in a while since this one's been running. I'm very, very bullish on Robinhood. MSCR looks very interesting as well. I'll show you guys a weekly on it. It looks like it's setting up in this weekly base. I'm paying attention to see if there's anything on there. OKLO obviously looks insane. We talked about that one. SMH, talked about this as well. Looks pretty absurd to me. APLD, another one that's setting up in a huge weekly base. This one looks ready to move over the $11 level. Rumble's another one that looks pretty interesting as well. Had a very nice pop here, and then it came back down with lower volume. Now it looks like it's setting up for a move higher. RKLB, Arrow stock looks ready for higher. And then BTDR, this is a data processing stock, looks amazing for a move higher. So these are just a few stocks that are like ready in themes that I like. But I don't have like clear trigger levels to trade them over. These are the ones that I'm looking at for tomorrow, like ready tomorrow if they do break out. My highest conviction is probably going to be ANF. Even though, again, there's not really like a major theme going on around that one. The weekly time frame is just too good to pass up. For all the other stocks, they already moved a little bit, so I'm waiting for a consolidation there. But those themes that I mentioned, you definitely want to focus on. So I did kind of branch it out a little bit here. Energy stocks, I really, really like. Semi stocks, stuff like that. Just look absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, there's so many stocks in the market. Honestly, anything you have conviction in, just lock in on that. See if there's follow through in the markets. But again, don't chase into the highs. Most important thing to do is be patient, wait for the right entries, stuff like that. But yeah, so many setups out there. I can literally list like a million of these stocks, but I don't want to like get too many of them. Just narrow it down to the stocks you like the most. That way you can execute easily. And yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up in terms of my plan. If you guys have any questions, if you guys have any stocks that you're looking at, you want me to go over, I'm going to get to that right now. So drop them down low. All right, I'm going to start from the top because I did miss a few of them. Cool. Can I check out Hood and Master? We already just went over those. Currently, it's lower high. We need to wait for confirmation of breakout on SPY, right? Yeah, so we'd want to get a break over this high. That confirms it technically, right? However, this looks pretty good to me. Yeah, Bitcoin does look like it's consolidating nicely. When you say we will see how the follow through is there anything specific you're looking for? Lower time frame setups, volume levels to break to be confident jumping in for a swing for ARK, for example? Yeah, so what I'm looking at is just the moving averages to hold, right? That's confirmation. So what I want to show you, for example, is when a stock breaks. So, okay, let's say, for example, right here, right? When a stock gets a move above the moving averages like this, you're looking for it to hold, right? And then move up. Right here, we didn't hold, right? We went lower. So you would want to be careful. Here, look at the difference, right? We went above, held, and then that's why we made the move up. So you're looking for a reclaim and hold. That is going to be the confirmation. So same thing we did here, right? So we reclaimed here, but we didn't hold, right? So what you're looking for is reclaim, hold, move higher. So confirming over a previous high would be like the best confirmation you can look for. If you want to be a little early, you can look for a reclaim, hold, and then you can buy out the hold. But a reclaim, hold, and then break over the previous high would be like the confirmation that you're looking for. And then now it's set up for like this wedge to really follow through and then break out higher, right? So that'd be like your full confirmation. Obviously, volume you would want to see a higher volume to confirm. Oscar, yeah, that one looks good. I also like hymns, um, but that one's like kind of moves kind of like a growth stock. P-Core, this looks really nice. It's setting up in a pretty nice daily base. It looks like if it can break over 77, it has legs for higher. Meta. Meta looks pretty interesting, but it was weaker on Friday compared to the rest of like the FANG stocks. It is reclaiming the big breakdown level though, so I think it will get some legs to it. It probably just needs to digest a little bit off of this move here, but as long as it holds like 600, I think it sets up for higher. And then Serve looks really good as well. This is like an Nvidia stock. Probably honestly moves up to like the high here. It's probably going to target this. But yeah, that's a pretty nice setup. AI, I really like. Huge weekly setup. And then Fiverr looks phenomenal. I have that one on my watch list as well. Super nice weekly time frame setup and a nice daily time frame setup as well. Would AMD be a decent candidate for a leap at this point, avoiding short-term volume? I would say yes. Honestly, I would say yes, and I don't usually say yes to something like that because it is still under the moving averages. So I would like to confirm something like here for this to like buy leaps. But the change of character that I'm seeing on it would kind of give me an idea that yes, it might be changing its character here. And also it does it is very oversold. I think AMD might be a little bit undervalued. I mean, there's still obviously Nvidia is doing much better in terms of like competition, but AMD is still pumping out some good chips. And they have had pretty good quarters. I mean, their quarters haven't been disappointing. They haven't been up to par with like how Nvidia is growing, but they haven't been like terrible quarters. So I think it could be pretty nice for like a leap idea. Yeah. How would you trade IONQ? A break of the recent high here at 48.4 would confirm that. So I would just take an entry over that. Can resolution be increased with charts? What does that mean? What about bank stocks like C? Yeah, bank stocks look good to me. So C looks actually probably one of the best looking ones. I would say break over 71.1 would confirm the breakout. Goldman Sachs, yeah, that one looks good as well. These two look pretty nice. So yeah, this one you'd want to get a break over 584. That would kind of confirm that move up. Tesla weekly looks phenomenal. It looks like it's holding this weekly retest right here. It's exactly what we wanted to see. It needs to stay over 400. And then the big level to reclaim looks to be 416. So if it get over 416, I think it's ripe for a move higher. I think going into like inauguration, it's like it makes like super high sense for Tesla and crypto to just move higher. I don't know. I think that makes sense. Private prison sector GEO. I heard a lot of people talking about GEO. It does look nice in terms of the setup here on the daily time frame. If it breaks over 30, that would be really nice. But yeah, I like those idea. As you mentioned, yeah, during his presidency last year, the last 4 years when he was president, these did do really good. MU, that would be the only weaker semi name I would say, but it is coming off of a key level here. You could see it held here like twice and then moved up, but it is on the weaker side since it gapped down. Square, yeah, Square has like a textbook weekly chart. It retested the breakout level at 85, then it kind of bounced back up. Really nice volume here. How I would trade this one is probably I would wait for like a day of consolidation and then see if it can like set up under this level right here and then break out or retest and then move higher. But right now it is a little bit extended. U and FNA, please. U is a software name. Oh, this is clear. Yeah, this one I don't love when the market is weaker right now because I mean it's in a downtrend. So I would prefer to look at like a stronger stock. But if the market does turn, maybe if it gets over like 28, it could gap fill. But not my favorite. FNA looks nice and ready to move at the monthly 21 EMA. It looks good if it can break above. Yeah, FNA much better. So the weekly and daily are in an uptrend. So this one looks much better. If it breaks over 11, it can test up into like 12.5. I like that one. Grinder, please. I love that app. All right, bro. This one looks pretty interesting. On the daily time frame, it's honestly not my favorite. It doesn't have too much consolidation. So I would like something like this. Especially after a stock runs up so much. Because usually after that happens, it needs a bigger base. So honestly, it's not my favorite. ASTS, that one's probably one of my favorite weekly charts. So along with ANF, this is probably, and SMH, this is probably one of the best weekly charts out there right now in the market. So this looks ready. I'm already long that. C, yeah, this one does look very nice. Looks ready for higher. How do you determine your stop loss when doing options? Usually you just use the low of day. That's probably going to be the easiest. But try to make it so it's not more than 30%. I try to keep it under that to manage my risk. Can we have this watch list downloadable? Yes, you can. I'm gonna send you. I'll link the link right now in the chat so you can download it. Reddit, yeah, that one's on my focus list. So it looks absolutely phenomenal. So break over 181 looks ready for a huge move higher. MGN, this one is looking pretty good. Wait, am I on the right thing? OSL, or like, because none of these are on the NASDAQ. Or you're looking at like specifically, I don't, you're looking at, I don't even know what this is. Oh, it's gas. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I need you to confirm. I don't know if I'm just slow or something. Zoom doesn't look the best, but it does look pretty interesting. It's still breaking out of a big weekly downtrend. On the daily, it does have this kind of wedge that's forming here. It needs to get back through the moving averages in that gap. SQ and Meta, we already went over SQ. Looks really good. Meta, this one needs to stay over 600 to move higher. After the wedge breakout, is it best to wait for the retest of your breakout level to get into them? So essentially a breakout and retest strategy after the breakout. So ideally, this is going to be your highest probability entry like model, but sometimes you don't get the retest, right? So that's the only like flaw in waiting for the retest. So I like to buy when the stock first breaks out. So for example, look at Jobby, right? I bought it here on the breakout on Friday, and I mean this isn't even gonna come close to retesting, right? It's just too far out. So I like to buy at the breakout right away. If I miss it, I would buy the retest, but I buy the breakout, I sell into the highs, and then if it retests, I add back in and I roll it over. That's usually like the strategy I like to use. Can I show to use the fibs? Yeah, bro. So you use it like the fib retracement tool. If you're looking at a stock that doesn't have previous levels, I know Jobby does, but let's say it didn't. You just measure the base from the high to the low, and then you can get targets for it with fib levels. So like 9.9, 10, 10.7, 11.5, 12.7, 17. GFAI. This is an interesting small cap. A lot of these are getting some pretty good flows off the lows. It could get interesting. It does have a lot of volume. It's over the previous high at 1.9. If it continues to hold 1.9, it could probably run up to like 2.5 and squeeze. It's already up pretty nicely in the post market, it seems. But yeah, a lot of these have been going crazy. Roku looks really nice too. This one's setting up for a big move higher. If it breaks through that spot, it could see 86 through this wedge here. Weekly, daily look pretty nice on it. HON. This one's been holding this low pretty well. You see the 50 EMAs coming up. Not the strongest, but it is setting up on the weekly, so it doesn't look bad either. I would say it needs to continue to hold 225. If it does so, it can move back up to like 230 and plus. NNE, that one looks fantastic. On the daily time frame, you have a big wedge. On the weekly time frame, you're setting up in a big weekly base. So there's a lot going for this stock. It does look very good. Volume patterns look good as well. I think it moves higher. Oxy, this one could be bottoming a little bit. It did reclaim the previous low right here. So it might be trying to break this downtrend, but it's still obviously in a big weekly downtrend. Well, I would say it might have some room to retest this level here, and then from there you have to see what it ends up doing. If it can reclaim, move back up. If not, it probably retests and moves lower. CRNC, that one went crazy on Friday. On the weekly, you might have some room back up to like 37, but like on the daily, it's obviously overextended. It moved like 140%. So I don't know how much more it's going to be able to move, but 21 would be a first level to watch. C, we already went over that one. Looks very, very good. Spot looks very good as well. It looks like it's holding that earnings gap. And on the daily time frame, it's setting up nicely within this flag. Looks pretty good for continuation higher. PayPal, I like Square a little bit better, but the setup here isn't like the worst. It did make a higher low here, held off the 50 EMA, and it does have this like pennant here forming on the daily and weekly. Overall, the weekly does look pretty good. You think it looks nasty? I mean, if it breaks under the 50 EMA, then yeah, it could move lower. But it did show some relative strength. AVGO, this one's setting up in a tight pennant here, it seems. If it can kind of build something like that and move out, that would be nice. Should I use ATR indicator on the 5-minute time frame? And if so, do I just pull my cursor all the way to the right to get the numbers or so on the top of the candle with the stop loss? Yeah, so you could do that. You could see like this is the ATR. So if you're like using like the 5-minute time frame, let's say you wanted to have your stop loss right here. You can just see that that's 0.58 cents, right? So you just subtract that from the price, which would be like 228.5. So that would be your new stop. GRRR. Weekly looks like it's gonna run higher. On the daily time frame, it might need to tighten up a little bit more, but if it can break through like 25, it does have some legs to it. DLR, this looks nice as well. Looks like it's breaking out of this downtrend here. It needs to stay above the moving averages and stay over 180, and then it can run to like 190. EOSC, that one is very nice. It's got a good theme to it. On the weekly time frame, it looks phenomenal. So it's just now breaking out. That means it has some room to like maybe $10 here. Like it can double from here. Wolf. This one looks pretty good. On the weekly time frame, it is making that kind of weekly uptrend higher. It did hold at 522, and it's trying to reclaim the moving averages. I would say ideally you'd want it to reclaim 6.5. If it doesn't, it's going to see a lot of resistance there. Shopify, that one's not my favorite on the daily time frame, but it could set back up. I mean, on the weekly, you could see it setting up nicely. It just might need a little bit more time to set up because it did make a very big move on the daily. How do you differentiate between buying shares or options? So usually I buy shares on stocks that aren't really that liquid or that have like crazy high implied volatility. So something like QUBT, for example, the IV is just too high to trade options. I mean, you could, but like it's not really worth it. So I would trade shares or something that's very illiquid. Like ANF, for example, is pretty illiquid on the options. So like, yeah, it's hard to get in and out of the options contract. So that's something I would trade shares with. When I set market conditional stop loss orders on Webull, there seems to only be an option for day expiration. Yeah, there's only it's only for day, sadly, for conditional orders. Which indicator do you use on TradingView for EMAs? It's called the 3 EMAs by this author, JENIO. Generally, when you're doing your stops, you do the same day low or previous day low or just percentage like 25%. So it just depends, right? If it's like let's say for example, if the low of day is a little bit too tight, then I would go like the previous day's low. If I have a lot of wiggle room, I'll go the previous day's low, especially if that lines up with like the 8 EMA, for example, or like another big key level. But like for a rule of thumb, I usually just use the low of day of the stock that I'm trading. Lift. This could be reversing its trend here. Looks pretty interesting. Was in a big move to the downside. Weekly does look like it's reversing a little bit. Same thing with Uber, I would say. It does look like it's trying to reverse. Looks pretty interesting. Solana. Sol USD. I'm super long Sol. Like I have almost as much Sol as I have like Bitcoin. I really like Solana. If you look at the monthly chart on Solana, this is gonna be like the next big mover. XRP made a really nice move. I think this one's gonna be a really nice mover. For all my crypto bros, looks very good. Holding Palantir leaps. Could you say a word about Palantir? So Palantir is in a big weekly breakout. It is getting a little bit extended, but I could see it hitting $100 honestly, as long as it holds up. It's been holding up very well. Solar stocks, those look good too. Yeah, off the energy theme. I think we could be bottoming here on a solar. Obviously, new administration isn't great for solar, but I think overall, like I think renewable energy is just going to be really good because data centers need a lot of renewable energy. I like stuff like FSLR. I think that might be bottoming. I like stuff like Sedge. That looks like it's bottoming as well. Please check out QBT. Yeah, we were looking at that one. It looks really nice. It's setting up really well. Break over 19 looks good. I'm long shares on that one. Can you talk about what you look for when evaluating your currently open positions? Or are you just checking to see whether stop or target has been hit, or are there other things? Honestly, just that, right? Like once I have a plan and I execute, I don't really deviate from it. So even if something looks like weird on the chart, which I mean, I don't know how they could look weird. I don't know. I'm just kind of making an example. I wouldn't really deviate my plan. The only time I would like get out early is if the stock isn't moving at all and like the contracts are just decaying, because then it just makes no sense. But that would be only because of the options, not because of the price action. So once I'm in, I don't change my plan. What is your rule for trimming? I use 1/4 trims. So I trim 1/4 on every target. I usually set up 3 targets and then I have a runner. My stop loss is usually going to be low of day and no more than like 30%. Do I consider fundamentals at all? Yeah, I do. So like with themes, stuff like that, I do consider fundamentals. Obviously, knowing what like the stock is reporting in terms of earnings and stuff like that is good. Like you want to look at stocks that are growing really well, or companies that are growing really well. But at the same time, you don't want to put too much weight onto it, right? So if you can have like a nice combination of technicals and fundamentals, that's the best way to go about it. But you don't want to put too much weight on fundamentals because, in my opinion, technicals still matter a lot more when swing trading or trading in general. If you're investing, obviously it's a completely different story. You're looking like purely at fundamentals probably. But that's why, like for swing trading, I would say it's probably the opposite. You're looking like strictly at technicals because stuff like QBT is like probably a Ponzi scheme. Like I don't even think the company has made $1, but I mean it's moved from $3 to 27 just based off the technicals. So yeah. How do you read confirm if Friday's breakout is real or fake breakout to trap put options? You don't really know. You just have to kind of see what ends up happening in the market and if there's follow through. But I think because there's so many setups in the market to the upside, then it's probably more than likely a real breakout. But you just have to see if the market follows through. PYCR. This looks pretty nice. If it can break out over this wedge right here, it does have some room to the upside. Celsius, that one is still weaker on the lows, but it could be trying to put in a bottom. Again, bottoms do take a lot of time to form, but this does have a higher low here on the weekly time frame, so maybe it's trying to bottom a little bit. On the daily, you would want it to break this trend line here. MBLY, testing the 50 EMA. Yeah, I'm still bullish on MBLY. We're still in a lot of MBLY, so I like it. Weekly volume is good on Lucid. Yeah, it does look really good. It potentially could be bottoming. LUV, that one I probably wouldn't. Oh wait, I'm on the wrong one. Sorry. Actually no, LUV does look pretty good. I was on the wrong ticker. This is airline stocks. They've been pretty strong. They weren't really that strong on Friday though, so something to consider. But overall, there is some pretty nice looks on this. D-Dog looks pretty nice as well. Could be setting up on the daily time frame for a move higher. PSTG. This one's really nice. Setting up in a big daily base here. Looks like it's setting up for a move higher. Disney, setting up as well. Does look very good here on the daily time frame. I haven't traded that stock in so long, actually. ON, does look very good as well. It looks like it's setting up for a move higher over this trend line here. I just use the basic plan of trading view. You don't really need anything too crazy. Do you know a place where P ratios are given for stocks based on sector? Maybe we can find something on TradingView. I'm not sure, but I'm not for 100% certain. Anet looks amazing, or ANET. This is a really nice looking chart. It looks very, very good. Okay, MGNI. Yeah, I was like confused, because that was like some weird thing. But yeah, this looks very good. So on the weekly, it's breaking out, setting up here after the breakout retesting. Looks really, really good. What was your entry level on Jobby again? Missed this one due to work that one day. So Jobby, I was looking for a break of this trend line right here. So on the hourly time frame, you could see it ended up breaking the trend line. I saw that it was getting lots and lots of volume, and it also reclaimed the previous its previous low here, and then I was able to run. FFIE. This looks pretty nice on the daily time frame. It did kind of pop a little bit inside day here. I would say look for an inside day high break to confirm a move higher. LMT probably still not the best look in my opinion. It's been trending down off the highs and it wasn't able to hold the previous breakout level, so not the best look in my opinion when I see that. Netflix, I don't like the way this one closed actually on Friday. It was pretty ugly. If it breaks 881, it's going to be a little bit weaker. Might move down to the 50-day. KO for the downside. Yeah, that looks good. If it breaks under 61.5, it does have a downside continuation look. CRDO, this one looks really nice, setting up in a big daily base. If it can get through 73.8, looks very, very good in my opinion. Microsoft, this one is setting up off of the weekly 50 EMA. You could see the last few times it tested, held really well, moved up. Weekly hammer here, but it has been weaker, so I would probably focus on Amazon and Google for FANG stocks. But if it can reverse and get through this wedge, then it might have some potential for higher. SOUN, that one still probably needs to build a little bit bigger of a base, so something like this, and then move out. Notice, okay, so look at this chart, SOUN, guys. Look at the price action, right? So the whole time it's riding the ADMA. Here it starts to kind of wobble and get through. Not saying this is going to do the same thing, but I want to show you a similar chart. Look at OKLO, right? So it was riding the ADMA all the way up, boom, 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 until it started to kind of wobble here and get through the moving averages. So what happens is after stocks make a huge move to the upside, sometimes they need to consolidate for longer to have that next leg higher. So even though it's set to move higher, it might need to consolidate for longer. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to happen, but it is an idea to look for on something like SOUN. So that's something I would say could potentially happen. But if it breaks the high, so if SOUN breaks the high and it breaks over 25, I would long it. SoFi, Um, off the 50 EMA on the weekly time frame, it looks pretty good. It might need some more time to consolidate though. And set up in like this wedge here. EMAT, I did go over it a little bit, but it does look very good. Yes, I would say if it can get through like, well, I mean, it already kind of got through the big spot that I needed to here at like 167. So I would say as long as it holds that, it does look nice for a bottom idea. Does the wedge have to be at or above 8 and 21 only? What if it's below both of them, but still holding the 50 on daily? That looks fine, right? So if something like Fiverr, I still have on my focus list. You can see this one's on the 50 at the 50 EMA wedge, and it's below the 821. So I would still consider it. However, the best looking ideas come off the 821. So I would still like prefer those more. Apple, this one might probably retest like 237, which was the breakout level. So look at this last time. It had a big breakout, Apple. Boom, boom, boom. It's kind of setting up for that from what I'm seeing on it. Fastly. This one could potentially be a bottom idea. Looks like on the weekly it is kind of reversing a little bit. Retested the breakout area. It might be setting up like this flag for a move higher. It does look pretty nice. How does one do conditional orders? On Webull, whenever you just have like a position, you could go to sell and then look under the sell orders. There's going to be conditional orders, and then you'll be able to put like market conditional order. That's what I do. But look at the pinned messages in the stock talk channel, because there's like a whole explanation on that. Have you ever experimented with ATR 0.8 from the lows? No, I haven't. Can you elaborate on that? Can I review apps? Yeah, this one doesn't look the best since it's like a pretty weak weekly, but if it gets through like $2, it might fill the gap back up. You wait for the end of the day to close to confirm the breakout to buy, or buy as it's breaking out. I would buy as it's breaking out as long as there's a 5-minute close over the level that I'm looking at. But waiting until the end of the day for the daily candle close isn't a bad idea if you did miss the original breakout. That's when I would look at the, that's when I would look for the close. How do you know when to enter right on a 5-minute close versus the retest of key level? So I'll always try to enter right on the 5-minute close. The only time it's going to be hard is if, let's say you have like, let's say this is the level you're watching. The stock goes like this. The 5-minute close is up here. It's way too far from the breakout level, right? So at that point, you have to wait for a retest. But if it closes near, I would always try to go for that first original breakout. If I miss it, then I would look for a retest. Can you look at GEVO and BE, please? Yeah. GEVO looks pretty nice here, coming off of this spot right here, breaking out higher. It looks like it's going to run to 3.4. BE is another energy name that looks really nice. It had this really big breakout here on the weekly, and then retest really nicely on the daily. Looks like it's setting up for a move higher. Do you exit shares like you exit cons, or do you typically hold shares longer? Usually longer, but very similar idea. If possible, please share trades watch list in addition to this one. I can't share this one because it would be unfair to the paying members, since you could see like the exact positions I'm in. But for paid members, I do have that in there, but I can't share that to the public. QBT is beverage company. Yeah, like I don't even know, bro. Quantum beverage company, like I don't know. I've heard so many legendary traders talk about how adding to winners is key. Do you do this? And if so, how? Yeah, so I basically roll over, right? That's how I add into them. So if you heard of me talking about rollovers, things like that, that's what I do. Nano X, how do I find the ticker? Is it this? Yeah. And then NOX. Yeah, this looks nice. If it can get through 9.5, it looks like it's gonna run to like 10.6 and higher through that spot. Do I have a masterclass topic this week? Any idea of running through screener and picking charts? I don't, but that's a good idea. I'll definitely write that down. I don't send friend requests to people. Please don't get scammed. I never message anyone first. Yeah, nothing. I'm never gonna ask you for crypto, anything like that. Just please don't fall for it. There's a lot of impersonators and stuff like that. If you want to message me first on this account. This is the only account I have on Discord. Would you say you enter more swings at the beginning or end of day? Probably 50-50. New Year's giveaway we haven't done yet because we're trying to figure out what we wanted to do. But we'll probably come up with something. Safe to buy QB t-shirts? Yeah, I'm in. FTNT, that one looks very good as well. I have this one on my my side watch. Looks like it's ready to break out over 99.3. It does set up for a big move to the upside. Hope I make $1 million tomorrow, bro. So do I. What do you look at on intraday chart before entering? You look for tight consolidation into your breakout level, and then once the stock breaks out, you just got to send it. Just look for high volume to confirm. If I join the cartel, how would you start with a small margin like 1K? Same way that I would do any other account, right? I would just kind of follow along. Use the positions that I'm alerting to kind of learn as well as make money at the same time. Probably take like 1 or 2 contracts per trade. If you can't afford it, I would just wait for the next trade. But we have enough traders and enough signals for you to like hop into a bunch of stuff during the day. MSCR cross back above the 50 MA RVSN, please. Yeah, MSCR we already looked at, but it does look good if we can push through that 50 EMA and get through the other moving averages. RBSN, this one does look pretty good on the daily. It did kind of pop here, setting up in a very tight wedge. Might need more time for the ADMA to come up, but over like 2.2, it could run higher. Roblox looks very good. We already covered that one, but it does look very nice. If it breaks over 61.8, it's probably going to run higher. I'm long that one. Have you ever used the relative strength line? I guess you used this since Minor Vinny and O'Neill are big opponents of this indicator. I have used it. I don't love it. Rollover means you roll the contracts or just take different cons with the profits. Yeah, so it could mean either ones. I mean, you can roll the contracts, but usually I just take different cons with the profits. So I just close out the position, buy a new position. So it basically just means adding to winners, more so than like a rollover, I guess. Can you extrapolate on the criteria for adding? Does it basically have to be a qualified setup as though it were a new trader? Can you hold 50% runners as the stock fades into the EMAs and add from there? I would prefer to add into a new position because why would we? I mean, okay, like the chances of a stock just completely going vertical are really low, right? So for example, something like Tesla, I wouldn't want to add rollovers here because the stock literally had already moved this much, right? So I wouldn't want to continue to hold the rest. What I would do is close the position, wait for this setup, and then I would buy rolls. Or I would wait for something like this, right? So I like to do it that way, but some people don't. I don't know. It just depends on the person, I think. When it hits your first trim level and you set your stop to break even, and then it hits your second trim level, should you set your stop to that second trim level instead of leaving at break even? Honestly, I don't think so. I think leaving at break even is good. What level should I re-enter Jobby? Probably 9.3 because that's the breakout level on the daily time frame. So that would be the retest. Do you trim based on percentages? No, but I do like to target certain percentages for my target level. So what I mean by that is I like to at least get a 1.5 RR before trimming. So I would have like my target set up in a way where that makes sense. So if like my stop's at low of day here, and I entered like here, for example, on the stock, I need to at least have a 1.5 RR for my first trim. So like you can set that up. Wait, where's this thing? Yeah, like this. So let's say your entry was here, stop is here. Your first target needs to be like here, right? Because that's a 1.5 RR. Poet. That looks very, very good. Super nice setup. It looks like it's ready to run higher. 7.5. What do you think of Sky T? Sky T looks very good. Big daily wedge setting up, beautiful volume patterns. It looks ready to run over 14.8. Very similar setup to like QUBT. When you sell your runners, you have a method or system that lets you know. I hold runners if holding the ADMA in the daily, but what if it closes below? Should you sell? Yeah, so what I do is I just like trail it, right? So unfortunately on Webull, there's no trailing orders for like your options. So what I do is basically for every 100% the stock is up, I move my stop loss 50%. So if the stock is, let's say I'm like up 300%, right? So I move my stop to 150%. Um, so that way I lock in the profits and I trail it as it goes up. You can play around with it, see if any other methods make sense, but that's how I have it. BTTR over 26.41. Yeah, I was watching that one as well. It does look very, very good. I think over 26.24 would be the level. Yeah. Firm, that one does look pretty interesting. It is stronger than like UPST. On the weekly, it looks very good. It looks like it's setting up for the like higher. I use Thinkorswim and volume study. I use is volume average doesn't matter. There are over 10 volume study choices. I know you're big on volume. I did see that you DM me about that. I'm not really that big on TOS though, so I'm not really 100% sure. I would just use regular volume if you have like something like this. You don't really need anything too fancy, to be honest. It's the most simple and easiest. On much longer term plays, what are your thoughts on using deep in the money 70 or 80 delta 6-month out options instead of buying stock? Yeah, that could work as well. The only thing is make sure that they're liquid, right? Because then you're going to be paying like the cost of getting in and out. DraftKings, not the best because it's below all the moving averages. So I'd probably not look at this one until it gets back above, but it is holding at a key spot there at 35. Yeah, I normally buy a little bit out the money, like usually about like 2 to 5%, maybe 10% at the most. Do you have any inputs for the Fibonacci retracement or use a default? I do have inputs. Here, send you a screenshot. Riot. We gotta be careful with these with these crypto stocks because they move terrible. But if it can get through the 14.25 level and really push through that spot, it does have room up to like 18 plus. When do you think it's safe to buy OTM if you're playing options? I honestly play out the money on like every single trade. So whenever it makes sense to you, but for me, it makes sense almost on every single trade. Rumble looks amazing. It's coming off the ADMA. It looks like it's setting up for a move higher. So it is really nice. Just make sure you're buying enough time on your OTM options. Use options flow volume for selecting your plays. I usually don't use options flow, but I do look at volume. Do you see NVIDIA still going? Yes, the weekly does look ready, and continuation is most likely, especially if SMH breaks out. Lemonade weekly time frame looks amazing. It's setting up in a big weekly base. Looks like it's going to be ready for a continuation to the upside over 38.7. What was the EMA indicator you used? The author? Let me type it. This is the author. 3 EMAs is the name. What do you think XRP will hit? Let me look at the chart again. So it's definitely going to hit 3.4. If we could set something like this up and then break 3.4, we have some targets up until like 5. I think $5 and $6 honestly makes sense. Like I could see it doubling from here. You ever put on a hedge on the SPX or VIX when you're coming into a big event FOMC? Sometimes, but not that likely because I'm not like a positional type trader, like someone who like positions themselves and has to always be in like active cash flow. For me, I'm fine with closing out positions and stuff and just taking less risk. So it's not necessary. Do you find these emerging themes move independently from market or close with it? Paying attention to indexes across A21 for higher probability to follow through, but I've noticed some names pop regardless when markets were down. Yeah, so stuff like Quantum, didn't really care. So yeah, sometimes these themes move irregardless. Like stuff like Aero stocks were stronger, but obviously when the market's popping, that's going to only increase your probabilities. So I would still wait for markets to be stronger. You know what I mean? What do you think about only focusing on stocks that have weekly options? A lot of the time when I'm scanning, I find a nice chart with terrible options chain. Yeah, I would probably say those are probably the best ones. Yeah, I would just focus. That's why sometimes with options, you have to only focus on the stocks that you know. So like, let's say if I'm doing my scan right here, refresh, boom, I have a bunch of stocks. So off the bat, NVIDIA, I know is very liquid. Rivian's very liquid. ACR, HHR is liquid. Riot's liquid. Jobby, ION, Snap, OKLO. These are a bunch of liquid stocks. But let's go down here. We start seeing like stuff like this, SMAR, probably not going to be liquid. NUS, probably not going to be liquid. That also comes with lower volume on the actual stock. So the higher the volume the stock has, the more likely it is to be also liquid options, if that makes sense. So that's why I would always sort like by volume first to see like the most, the highest liquidity stocks. You like MU gap fill to the upside? It could work. Probably not my favorite idea, but if it does get through 91.16, it could gap fill, yeah. How do you decide on the position size and option expiration to select? Position size depends on the market. If we're following through, I'm going to go full size, usually about 5%, if not half size. Option expiration is usually just going to be 1 month out. So like the next most liquid expiration, which is usually the next month OPEX contracts. Do you have any good option stocks you play? Yeah, so everything on my focus list, those look good to the upside with options. I was able to pull a list of stocks with weekly options, and that really helped me filter some. Yeah, that's good. What ticker filter do you use at the bottom of the trading view chart? Like, do you mean like what my filters are for the stock screener? It's this. I'll take a screenshot for you. I just made a whole thread on this on Twitter, though, if you guys want to check it out. I made a whole thread about how to scan for stocks and stuff, like about an hour ago. When there are so many good setups, but they're out there, how do you narrow focus list down to like 6 or 7 names? Use a checklist. So use like a breakout checklist, see if all those stuff match your criteria. If not, don't add them to your focus list. If they do, add them to your focus list, and then you'll narrow it down. How long do you wait to see if a market will be choppy or good? What do you mean how long? So like, I usually just look to see if we're holding the moving averages. If we hold the moving averages, it does look like we're ready for continuation. If we continue to chop, then I would probably like lower my sizing. I don't select in the money contracts. Usually they're out the money about like 2 or 3%. All right, guys. I think that's gonna wrap it up. Is the bootcamp filled? We have like 10 spots. So if you get a call within like the next either today or tomorrow, it's probably gonna be the last one. The last probably like tomorrow it's gonna get filled, to be honest. But yeah, for anybody not in the premium, we actually are running free trials again. So if anyone wants to try the Discord out for free over the next week, you could try it out for free. I did drop the link for the free trials. There's about like 100 spots. So if you guys want to try it out, that's the link. And yeah, I'll see everybody in the Discord. We should have an amazing week, honestly. I'll be live trading tomorrow morning. It does look like we have a bunch of setups that are set up to like fire. So I'm thinking really, really good month, really good week. Let's see if the market follows through. That's really all it's going to come down to. And from there, all we have to do is execute. But yeah, I'll see you guys. And this video is going to be posted as well. So I'll see everyone later. Have a good rest of your nights, everybody. See you guys tomorrow. Later, everyone.